All right, what's going on? Alex Gibson. Dude, we've been good friends for quite a while now. I've watched you scale your coaching business up to like $35,000 months, and you've been one of my long-term clients. I'd love to hear kind of right off the rip, what do you kind of attribute a lot of your success in online coaching to?
I know this is going to sound like a very basic answer, but just consistency. Like people ask me, like, how did you build a big following on social media? I'm like, dude, look at the number of posts. I've posted like 2,500 times, right? And I think with like, especially my fitness business, I've had definitely, some nice growth spurts. But for the most part, it's been pretty slow and steady, and just being open minded to change and taking advice from you and just really running with it, right? And like executing it. So I would say consistency, right? I mean, consistency is kind of like the secret sauce with anything. You can try out all the hacks and stuff that you want, but like if you're not showing up consistently, you're not going to see the results that you want.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. And I think that a lot of people want that quick fix, and then when they don't get it in the first like 2 days of posting consistently, they're like, "Oh, well, dude, I'm out. Like this isn't for me." Which is probably a good thing, right? You want coaches who are in the industry who are actually committed to like, seeing things through. I'm sure I wouldn't want my coach like quitting on something 2 days in if I'm like paying him money to like help me with something.
Yeah.
What do you find, even like just kind of working with us, what was the piece, maybe like what were some of the big aha moments for you along the way as you were scaling from like, 5 to 10K and then 10K to 20Ks and then, lastly like 20K to now like 35K months?
I would say like 5 to 10K was really about like locking in the sales process and like really getting that fully up and running. And then once you're trying to like scale past like 10, 20,000 a month, it's all about like you can't do it alone. And for me, that was like a pretty scary thing because having to, kind of trust other people in my business. We have an executive assistant. We also have, a setter. So like, well, we have two setters actually, right? So kind of trusting them with what we normally would do, right? And like offboarding it to them. I think that's pretty scary, right? So especially, because like this is the first business I've ever created, right? Like being able to trust someone to do it, up to par, maybe not quite as good as you, but still produce results, I think can be pretty daunting. But you definitely can't scale a business past a certain point without help. And you need to find quality people. And I'm certainly appreciative of like all the tips you've given me for like where to find people, how to make sure someone's the right fit, like what questions to ask. So just like understanding the interview process more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's tough. It's like your baby. You're like, dude, I've put so much work into this, especially if it's like the first time you're doing it. You're like, dude, this is everything. Like, this is the first time I've ever gotten one of these things up and successful, and it's making me lots of money. And like, the last thing you want to do is like throw someone into a very key part of that process and risk them like screwing it all up for you. So it's definitely having having a process in place to like do that effectively, where like this is the best shot I have at doing this successfully, where it's not a massive obstacle in my business is key.
Yeah.
What do
And then
you
like,
what if Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
and I was going to say like tracking is also something like that you've taught me a lot more about, like what to track, like how to look at the numbers, right? And like also we've like dove into ads, and I've been pretty happy with like the ad quality that we've been getting and the results from the ads that we were running, especially for follower ads. Like I found like that was really helpful for just getting a few more calls on the calendar, as well as just like boosting like overall engagement on the Instagram, which like, for a lot of fitness coaches, like, we have a website, but I think a lot of people that are getting into fitness coaching, they're like, oh, I need this like fancy, $5,000 website. And it's like, it couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. Like that's just kind of like for show, right? It's good to have one, but that should not be your main focus, especially if you're at like, $3,000 a month or 5,000 a month. Like most people are going to find you from social media.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally what we teach inside of full time is like the full time framework is step one, fast start, right? How do you get clients without a website, without a team, without any of that stuff? And then next, like you kind of touched on, is that follower funnel. Like I think that is the fastest way for coaches, like especially if you don't want to get into like meta ads and it scares you and you don't want to spend 3 to 5K a month on advertising because you just don't have that money yet. The follower funnel right now, that full time follower funnel is like the easiest way to throw some dollars in and learn how to do advertising, get money back. And then lastly, is the system, right? Putting a full-time system in where you can hire people and delegate out those certain pieces of the process. I think a lot of coaches are probably interested most in like that full-time follower funnel where you're boosting posts. And I think they probably see a lot of their friends or other coaches doing this. So like walk us through a little bit of like what that's been like for you and how you've been running the follower ads.
Yeah. So before, I started working, so I worked with Will like 3 years ago. And then I kind of tried out a couple different programs, right? It's like the grass is greener on the other side type of thing, but found out quickly that it wasn't. I had ran like ad campaigns with a couple like super big name business coaches and was honestly just pissed about the results because the coaches weren't giving me very good advice. It was just very general. It felt like they were saying the same thing to everyone. Versus when I was working with Will, like we were actually like working on the creative together. And I felt like he was just like walking me through the process a lot more in depth, which gave me more confidence about it because like before, like when I was running ads with other programs, it was super complicated, like video scripts and all that stuff. But the follower ad is honestly really, really easy. I mean, you still, probably want to film a video, or, you could boost like one of your top posts, but it's a really easy thing to do. I mean, the creative, you can knock it out in like 15 minutes and it does work. And then you just need to have a good setting process in place. So then when people do start following you and like they're following you for that specific reason you call out in your video or your picture, um, then you need to just make sure you follow up with them and, you kind of strike the iron when it's hot.
Yeah, it's so much nicer too because I think a lot of coaches they have no idea conceptually like how do I go from just cold DMing people all the time to having clients kind of knocking on my door. And I think that's when they make that jump to, oh, I need like a really fancy website and I have to run really expensive ads. I think that follower funnel kind of bridges that gap where it's like you can get a bunch of new people who follow you daily, specifically for what you're coaching. And then it's an easy entry point to message them. Like how many people do you kind of message a day? Like what is your new followers at on a daily basis?
So we'll typically get like 100, 150 followers per day. We weren't even like running like an insane budget, but like we were seeing like an extra 100 followers per day. I mean, total conversations I'll have my setter do is maybe like 100, 150 a day. And, we typically are going to at least get like 2, 3 calls booked a day. I mean, minimum standard I have set with him is 1 call per day. And I can't say I can really remember the last time when we didn't at least get 1 call on the calendar, right? And
That's
so I'm actually too like with Will's advice, I'm actually having him take more calls as well. So that's freeing up more of my time for the actual coaching and then just more of like the vision of the company, which is obviously comes down to like our marketing, putting together like great resources for our clients. So I've really liked also too how I've been able to take more of a CEO role in my business and work more on my business than only in my business. Right. And I think that's like a big step that also helps you scale is not like being so bogged down with client fulfillment and not doing everything on your own. So then you can actually focus on like growth projects, right? And those growth projects are going to lead to the numbers that you want to see.
Yeah, you're never going to grow the garden if you're stuck in the weeds. And so getting out of a lot of that, and I think a lot of coaches hold on to it because they're like, I don't want to trust this to somebody, but getting good people and, first of all, doing it yourself, improving it and getting that process in place and then being able to hand it off to someone where you can cut it, you can delegate it, or you can systematize it. And like, how do you have to do all of them first to decide, is this something we just don't do anymore? Is this something I can teach someone else to do? Or is this something an AI can do that I don't even need to hire for? Is like a massive part of the scaling. And you mentioned, I think a lot of coaches hearing this are like, dude, 150 follows a day, 100 conversations per day. They're like, dude, I'm struggling to like message 20 people in my DMs. They probably are now like thinking that's got to be a lot of money. How much do you usually spend per day on follow ads?
We were spending, I think, at the max like $50 to $100 a day. So we've like played around with like bringing it up and down a little bit, but I think at a max was maybe 100, $125 per day, which like when you're getting more calls in your calendar and as long as your close rate is like north of 50%, like it pays for itself. So like we were not only breaking even a lot of months, we were actually profiting and getting a nice return on investment for that ad spend. I think, a big thing I'd also say to people that are, newer to fitness coaching or just newer business owners in general is like one of the biggest mindset shifts that I had to really start to develop was it's not an expense, it's an investment, right? And, I used to look at everything like, oh, like, paying for a business coach, like, wow, that's such a massive expense. But like, no, if you're actually like utilizing your business coach, if you're actually like running successful ads, all that stuff, like, you're putting dollars in to get more dollars in return. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the past couple of years, like with working with you and just like all the personal development that I've done on the side as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I could not agree more that it's a mindset shift first and foremost. Because if you view all these things as like, oh, I'm like spending all this money, you're always going to be stressed out instead of looking at it like, hey, this is a return on investment. And I think you tied in a good piece of that, which was like tracking. Like if you're tracking this and you're saying, hey, I'm spending $100 a day to get 100 follows, and I'm turning that into 2 to 3 calls, but we're closing, one of those calls every other day. Yeah, you might spend $200 over those 2 days, but if you close a $2,000 paid in full client using Affirm or Klarna, you've 10x'd your investment in 48 hours. And like you look anywhere else in the world, it's like you're just not going to do that. If you put money into the stock market, you're getting a 6 to 8% return over like a year. You're not getting a 10x return, 1,000x, increase in 48 hours. There's just no other place you can do this. And so being able to kind of leverage these systems online and one, have a really good product, a really good coaching service, and then a really effective way of marketing it and getting paid up front for it. It just allows you to move so much faster than any other vehicle for business out there right now. And I think that's why so many coaches, they need to get their head out of this, I need to work harder, and really start looking at what are the top coaches doing to work smarter. And I think, you being one of the top coaches in the industry, being able to do multiple 6 figures a year online coaching, it comes from you constantly searching out these systems and finding them and implementing them. But I don't think that works without an ideal offer. So like, for you, what makes your offer stand out so much compared to other people's? Because you are working with well over 100 clients at this point.
So our business, we have about 150 clients. I'm working with like close to 90. Then my girlfriend, I mean, her roster is scaling really, really fast too. So like we're on the cusp, like next couple months, like we're getting an assistant coach 100%. So, some of my overflow can go to the assistant coach, and then she's like kind of getting capped out as well. So yeah, we're working with a lot of clients. And what was the question again?
What do you think about your offer specifically allowing you to bring in that many clients? And how are you fulfilling that without getting super stressed out?
Yeah. So fulfilling it comes down to the systems. So if you have good systems, you have some automation in your business, you use a good training platform. Like I'm not a big fan of Trainerize. For me, it was just felt very outdated and kind of ancient. And so I use a company called Fitbud, and they are the ones that host my custom app, and it's super efficient. I've customized it to exactly how I need it to be. So, on terms of client fulfillment, I'm super efficient with that process, right? Check-ins, I used to do a ton of calls. Now I do Loom videos. My clients don't complain at all about not getting the calls. If honestly, the Loom videos are more convenient because we're not having to coordinate schedules, and they can actually see live like what I'm commenting on and the feedback that I'm giving. So I think the systems are the biggest thing. And then AR Funnel, that was just on their podcast, but AR Funnels is a crucial part of it. And I know Will preaches AR Funnels to his higher level coaches. And so, yeah, I think like systems are a huge part of what allows you to really scale and also not be, too in the weeds in your business 24/7. And then to answer the other part of that question, I keep forgetting what was the beginning of that question.
Like the beginning was
offer.
The offer, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So with the offer, I think like one of the reasons why we've been so successful is number one, like Lainey and myself, like we practice what we preach. Like we're not these coaches out there telling our clients to do one thing, but we've never actually walked the walk. Like we lead by example first and foremost. We've also both been very consistent with social media, so that's helped us to reach a ton of people, right? So I think that's part of it. But in terms of our actual offer structure, premium level of service. And so like we worked with a lot of clients, and we still do work with a lot of clients that came from previous coaches. They would send their coach a message, get a response, 2 weeks later or a week later, right? That never happens with us. We also don't market how a lot of fitness coaches market. A lot of fitness coaches market, hey, this is the quick fix, get abs in 30 days type bullshit. And we're honest and we're realistic with people, right? We tell them exactly how long it's going to take, right? We typically work with clients for 6 to 12 months. And, that was kind of a big jump in our business because we were working with clients in about 3-month increments for a long time. And then, we through, I believe it was your idea, Will, just like, getting clients on a longer term. And we've gotten like zero pushback. And at first I'm like, we're going to get so much pushback, but in fact, we haven't. And we still get people re-signing just as much. People get better results, right? We are kind of weeding out the people that aren't actually super serious about seeing out their goals. And so I think like our marketing approach of like no fad diets, like, hey, this is a community, we're going to support you as like your one-on-one coach, right? You're working directly with us. But then also we preach like the education aspect, right? Because so many people are just out there. They're like, how the hell do I get in shape? Right. Or they focus on all the wrong things. And the reason why they focus on all the wrong things, like, what quick fix supplements they can take, is because they're afraid of actually putting in the work of like just the basic things. Right. So we really help put them on the right path, and we educate them along the way. So then they can become sustainable, like self-sustaining in the future, where they don't need us as coaches. So we always kind of tell people like our goal, like, sure, we do have some long-term clients, but our goal is to work with someone, for like a year. And that's kind of like our average time duration. And within that time frame, they're going to get all the tools, all the resources, all the education. They're going to make it a full-blown lifestyle. And that lifestyle is going to lead to, years and years of positivity in their fitness journey going forward.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because it does so much for your business. One is like the goodwill, right? You're not just telling someone, do this keto challenge for 8 weeks, get an amazing transformation, and then go gain all the weight back after it's done. I think a lot of coaches do that. They get these insane transformations for people because it's unsustainable. That person's been starved. And then they post it like, dude, I'm amazing. Look, I help people lose 30 pounds in 60 days. But then you have no goodwill. Like your clients are like, yeah, dude, I did his program. My metabolism's shot. I feel like garbage. I weigh more than I did at the beginning now, a couple months later. Where you've kind of taken this approach, which is like, we're gonna have a client lifetime value that's longer, right? They're gonna work with us for 6 months. They're gonna re-sign for another 6 months. We're gonna change this person's life over a year, and it just works out in so many. You get better referrals, you get better reviews, you get better word of mouth, and then from like a money marketing standpoint, like let's say like the follower ads, right? If you're spending $100 a day on follow ads, and it takes you 2 days to book a client, it costs you $200 to acquire a client. But if they sign up for 6 months at 2K and then another 6 months at 2K, you're making $4,000 for every $200 you're spending. In that second sign up, you didn't have to go spend another $200 to go find that person. This is someone who's coming from within your inner circle. And so it just, from a business standpoint, it gives you such a more solid structure. I think a lot of coaches, they get burnt out, especially if they're doing the quick fix with like, every single month I'm grinding for new people because I don't know where my next sale is coming from. Then if hey, more than half of my people, they're going to sign up again at the end of this because they love the program, and they're going to send a bunch of their friends, it gives you much more of a sustainable business. And the best businesses I've seen, they usually have that structure where you get a lot of referrals, a lot of people giving testimonials, a lot of people re-signing, and it just feels better for you as the coach, and also for you as like the CEO. Looking at the money side of things, you're like, I feel stable. I feel like I'm not constantly having to scrape new leads to break even each month.
Yeah, stability is huge. And then like also pricing your service accordingly. So like we're not like cheap, but we're also not like, $1,000, $2,000 a month, right? Like for the value that we provide, like we are really, really like appropriately priced, right? And so like we used to charge way less, like Lainey and I, when we both started fitness coaching, and like you'd think like, oh, I'm going to get a lot more volume at a lower price point. And like why that might be true in some scenarios, you actually find that the clients like need a lot more babysitting. They're a lot more needy and kind of entitled. And, it's actually like when you price your service appropriately for the value that you provide, right, you're actually going to get higher quality clients in the door, and clients that are actually ready to work, right, that are more committed. So I think the price point is also huge at which you offer your service, because you're going to get burnt out if you are doing $100 a month programs and then you have like 1,000 clients. Like, yeah, you might be making good money, but is that sustainable? No. And then also too, like there's no way one person can fulfill that many clients at once.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you were talking to a coach who was starting out, and let's say they've been a trainer for a while, they've got really good, like they know how to do everything. They just haven't built it online yet. And they've got a good physique. Maybe they've done some shows or something. Like they've got all the stuff that they need to be successful at this, but they have no idea how to create this offer and price it. Like, what would you have them price their offer at if they have all the other aspects in check?
I mean, I think when you're newer to online coaching, right, you don't just go to like where your prices will be once you're more established. I think you start off by, offering, maybe some like really affordable coaching to maybe some like friends and family, or, work colleagues or something to get it started. But then once you build up testimonials, like I think you get somewhere in that price point of like 300 to 500, maybe even potentially a little bit higher per month. And so we base our pricing off of how long someone is signing for. So like 12 months is cheaper than 6 on a monthly basis. And then we also base it off of check-in frequency. So we have weekly and biweekly check-ins. And so having that has actually been a game changer. sure like we still get people signing up for the weekly, but otherwise, you know, if we didn't have that biweekly option, right, some of these people just wouldn't be able to afford working with us, right? So we have like, you know, a whole pricing sheet. We kind of walk them through it. And then adding like financing options has honestly been super, super nice. And it kind of takes like the stress out of payments, because I'm sure any coach can relate, right? There's always going to be people that are late on their payments, or, you know, let's say a client, you know, just decides, you know, a couple weeks into the program, like, hey, I'm not actually serious. And they quit going to the gym, right? That person's in such a victim mentality. They're going to blame you for their lack of results, even though they're not showing up for themselves and putting in the work, right? And so when you use like financing, not only does that allow you to get more people in, but you actually receive all the money up front. And that person is then at the mercy of like Affirm or Klarna or whatever. So then those payment disputes, right? They're now going against, because like as a small business, right, it doesn't really make sense to actually take people to collections. But when you have a company like Affirm, a massive corporation, you bet you that they're going to make sure that person pays.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like if you get people who come and they say, I'm going to commit to something, you don't want to have to then be punished financially for people deciding to basically defraud you and say, like, hey, I know I agreed to this. I know I paid you for all this stuff. You created my workout programs. You got me my app. You gave me everything. Now I'm going to take this and run month two. And I know I've had that happen in my business.
They're also stealing your IP, right? They're taking
Yeah.
your intellectual property, because we have like so many valuable like resources, ebooks and stuff that we've sold in the past in the app. So as soon as someone's on that app, they have access to all that, to download it, everything like that. So yeah, you want to protect your IP, and also too, like, you know, putting a contract in place. I usually just call it an agreement. I put agreements in place, right, that lets people, you know, it lets you be on the same page with your client in terms of what they're agreeing to. It reduces the chances of them doing like chargebacks and things like that. I think like, yeah, like don't treat your online fitness business as a, you know, don't treat it like it's not a legitimate business, because I think some online coaches kind of do that, right? Versus when you treat it more like a legitimate business and you put like legitimate processes into play. Like, for example, you're not going to go to Crunch Fitness and be able to work with a personal trainer there without signing a contract, release liability, paying all at once, you know, that sort of thing, right? Like, so treat your business like it's a legitimate business and watch your business climb and scale.
That's some of the best advice, and I think a lot of coaches need to hear that, because they have this almost like saint identity of like, I'm not going to make people agree to stuff. I'm going to be very like, it's like the parent who never disciplines their kid. It's like you end up with an entitled brat. Like if you don't actually put processes in place, you're going to get clients who take advantage of that. And so people aren't numbers, but you're also not running a charity. And you have to find that happy medium between that, where it's like, hey, we're going to have agreements and we're going to have structures and processes in place. And like, again, shout out to FitBud and to AR, who we're both partnered with. They're both partners of Full Time. And so we set you up on them and we give you these contracts and we get you these afterpay methods so you can do all this. But having that process in place to be like, hey, we've got a software that we're going to give you access to our IP, all of your workouts. It's going to be on your phone. We're going to have an agreement that you're going to pay X amount for this. And then we're going to have a third party financing option that comes in and handles that payments for you. For you as the coach, then you get to stay in your wheelhouse, which is like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get people interested in this, and then I'm going to give them an amazing product. And then all that other stuff is handled by other people. You're not the bank. You're not a software developer. You know, you're just getting to do what you do best, which is coach people about what you love, and getting all that other stuff out of there. That takes a lot of the pieces out of the puzzle that I think is awful. You know, like you said, legitimizing your business. The faster you do that and the more strategic you are in doing that and leveraging a program like Full Time or any program that allows you to get access to these things, it's going to make you much more confident that you have a legitimate business way faster.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that running a fitness business definitely taught me is that, you know, there's a lot of very dishonest people out there, right? And like, I don't think like, you know, if I'm thinking about like how I think about people in general, right? I like to think the best of people, right? I love to think that people are great, but I've certainly had, you know, some experiences where someone just did me so dirty, right? And the only thing that I did was support them, you know, respect them, help them the whole entire journey. And then they just burned me at the very end, right? I had a client one time that did a chargeback on me for about $10,000. So he had worked with me for about, and like he kept on, so he periodically did them. And so we had worked together for like a year and a half, like it provided him an awesome service, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, like first $2,000 payment chargeback, the next one 2 months later, another 2,000. And I was literally like, I had contracts and all that stuff. And one thing that absolutely pisses me off is that these payment processors don't give a shit. These payment processors, 99.99% of the time, are always going to side in favor of the person and not the business, which I think, honestly, that's something that like Stripe and all those companies need to fix, because I had contracts, text messages, proof of them on the app, all that stuff, right? Didn't matter, right? And so like, I think there does need to be a payment processor that actually protects businesses, because like I said, I had done nothing wrong in that scenario. I had simply provided the service, helped the person out, and then they tried to burn me. So I don't like, I don't go into that. Like, I don't like to ever think that, or like, I'm not letting that cloud my perception of people, but I will say, like, cover your own ass and make sure that you have some protection as a business owner, because people sometimes like to treat fitness coaching like they don't have to make their payments on time and things like that, where fitness coaching is no different than you getting a haircut, right? There's no way the barber is going to be like, oh yeah, like you can come back in two weeks and pay me, right? No, the barber is like, I just cut your hair, the payments due now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like you said, it's all about legitimizing the business through these processes. If you take yourself seriously, you get what you ask for. And so if you carry yourself like a 7-figure business with processes in place and you hold people to them, and you're strict when you have to be strict, but you're also lenient when you have the ability to be lenient, it gives you goodwill, but at the same time, people will respect you. They'll hold you to that that higher regard that you're holding yourself in.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Dude, thank you so much for your time. I guess last thing is, anyone who's kind of on the fence about joining a program, like you said, there's a lot of people out here. There's a lot of coaching programs. What is it specifically about full-time that you enjoyed, that you felt helped you best? And would you recommend it to someone starting out, or, kind of in your shoes, looking to scale to like a much higher level?
1,000%. I'd recommend, working with full-time. And I think the big reason is Will, quite honestly. Like, and I'm not just saying that because I'm friends with him, but I have worked with a ton of high-level business coaches. Like I was saying, after I worked with Will originally, I had gone to several other programs thinking the grass is greener on the other side. And I'll tell you, they were quite more expensive too than even like Will's program. And the level of service sucked. And that's the reason why I've been back working with Will for like the last year and a half, was because Will actually take time out of his day to actually talk to you and help you with strategy. And so we've had like a lot of one-on-one meetings where he's provided such great insights. And I love the way that he thinks about business. It's definitely very aligned with how I think about business, and gave me a lot of tactical things to implement versus, a lot of these other programs, even if, like, let's say, the marketing's more flashy, or, they have a bigger ad budget, so you see them all the time. They're not what they seem they are. And I can tell you that firsthand. They're not what they seem they are. And a lot of times you're going to have no access to the main guru that is the person who masterminds. So all I can say, is Will is a true, genuine guy who will help you out. He'll actually care about your business. He'll help your business grow just like he has mine. And even though, there's going to be a ton of different options, Will's a solid option. And he's someone that I refer people to because I do believe in the service and everything that Full-Time Fit Coach does.
Dude, thank you, man. I could not appreciate those kind words more. And I've loved working with you for the past 3 years. I can't wait to see you hit 1 million and beyond with Laney. And I'm just wishing you, even more success in everything you're doing. Thank you so much for taking time to come on and talk to us. And can't wait to see where you go from here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate you. Peace.